Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this week's ASW Live. Today, we're with Miranda from Arts by Warehouse. She's worked there. How long have you worked there?
It's been 2 years now.
2 years now. Okay. Um, and she works primarily in our spray paint department. And so today she's going to go over spray paint kind of basics, information. And then if you guys have questions, you can just ask them on the video, and I'll ask those questions for you for Miranda.
All right. Okay, well, hello everyone. Thank you for stopping by to kind of hear and learn a little bit more about all the different types of spray paint that we offer at our store. It really is a lot, but all of us are trained to help you out when you come in. If you ever have questions, to help direct you to the right product for your project. So a lot of times people come in and they just say, "What's the best spray paint? What should I use?" What I like to tell people first is it really just depends on the application you're using it for. That's really what matters the most. And then from there, you could kind of determine the difference between the brands and which one might be appropriate for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So to start, there are a couple different types of bases for the spray paint. Aside from that, there will be a variance of the pressure on the spray cans as well. And depending on which brand you select, it will have a different sheen to it. So some might be a little bit more semi-gloss, some are gloss, some might be more matte.
Okay.
So all of that, it would just depend on what brand you select. So the first one I wanted to kind of get into, once you kind of narrow down to the type that's appropriate for your project, if you were to go for something that's more of a lacquer base, something that would be better for like industrial type use or even things that are going to be outside or anything like on metal, different types of surfaces, but not limited to that.
Yeah.
I would recommend here we have the Belton.
Okay.
Um, this right here is probably, I would say, one of the more professional, like grade spray paints that we carry.
Yeah.
Very highly pigmented. They actually use automotive grade pigments for this one here. So this is really, really good, very smooth. It does have a dual valve, so depending on how hard you press on the can, you're gonna receive that output of paint.
Okay.
So this one's really smooth. I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
The next type of like, I guess you could say more like a lacquer type base that we have is the 94, which is
Okay.
this one right here. Um, this one is also going to be like a kind of like a matte, almost more like a satin finish to it.
Okay.
This one is going to be a low pressure can. So a lot of people that come in doing like mural work, or even if they're just trying to like paint models, different things like that, they like to go for this paint.
You
Um,
kind of control it a little bit better.
yeah, definitely. Since it is at a lower pressure, it's allowing you more control. Um, Whereas, like with this one, for example, this is a hard core here. This is a similar base as I mentioned.
Yeah.
This one is going to be a high pressure can though. So
Okay.
if you're trying to just get like fast coverage,
Yeah.
then this is going to be the way to go. Of the brands that we carry at our store, this is one of the only brands that is actually going to be a gloss finish.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, a lot of people love this one. These ones, they recently added a lot of new colors. So
Nice.
it's been pretty cool to see customers coming in and expanding their
Yeah.
variety.
Color range.
And then the other one we carry is going to be the Montana Black.
Okay.
So this one, it's going to have like a matte finish to it as well. This is also a high pressure can. So if you're looking for like, for example, like you're going to try painting your bike or
Yeah.
things of that nature. But it's, as I mentioned, it's not only limited to things like that. You could also use it for furniture, for your vehicle, um, pretty much anything really. As long as you're going about it, preparing the surface with the appropriate things
Yeah.
and sealing it at the end as well. And then, so those are those.
I do
Oh
have
yeah,
somebody asking, sorry, I have one person asking, are the paints labeled as high or low pressure in the store?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, each
So
can, right?
yeah, it will be labeled on all the cans. Belton, however, they don't have that information on the can directly. Inside the store, though, with the pricing for each line, you will see that it will say the type of base it is. It will also say the pressure of the can as well. Yeah, so that's all of those. And actually, I almost forgot, these ones we just recently got in, I want to say 2 days ago. These
Okay.
are Krylon. So these ones are actually with a primer and a paint in them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of colors. They're all gonna vary from like gloss, satin, flat. There's a couple of primers and things from this brand that we're gonna be carrying as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just expanding the options that we have available for our customers.
Yeah, that's good.
So those ones are for pretty much for all like the lacquer type base. They're actually gonna be like a little more complex than that, but just to kind of understand the differences of them and what would be appropriate for certain applications. In
Yeah.
lack of better words, that would be the best way to describe them.
Yeah.
So then we have these two. These are our other ones that we carry. This right here is our water-based spray paint.
Nice.
This paint right here is very unique. It's a lot different than any of the other paint that we carry. These ones are good for indoor and outdoor use. So a lot of people like them because they have like a low odor.
Yeah.
If you're maybe trying to teach your children how to spray paint, or someone who's a little more sensitive to higher toxins and stuff, this is a really good option for them. It's actually made with water-based resins. But just because it is water-based does not mean that it's not permanent. Once it dries, it will be permanent. So this one's pretty fun to play with. It's definitely worth trying out at least once, even if you're just trying it for like a background gradient for a canvas or a little project like that. These would be good. I've even had customers who like paint on like flowers and stuff like that. They'll typically use this because it doesn't really have harsh chemicals on it.
Interesting.
Or like surfboards as well.
Yeah.
So it's, as I mentioned, like all of these paints are very unique in their own way, but they're not limited in any way. Like you can definitely do a lot more with them than people think.
Yeah.
And then this one right here, this is a Montana Gold spray paint. This is the only spray paint that we carry that's actually going to be acrylic based.
Okay.
So the reason why this one specifically is very important is because a lot of times people are coming in, and as I mentioned, they're maybe using it for a fine art application.
Yeah.
So the reason why it's more important to go for this, if, for example, if I'm going to be painting a picture and I wanted to do the background all green, and I intended to go back with my acrylic paint or my acrylic paint markers, and I wanted to do some details and like, you know, paint whatever, basically, a portrait of myself, then it would be appropriate because if you're using acrylic with acrylic paint, it adheres to each other.
Got it.
So it's very important that if that is something that you intend to do, that you keep that in mind when you're selecting a spray paint.
Got it.
So yeah. So was there any good questions right now, or everything's good so far?
I think we're good so far. I think I had a couple questions just as far as like dry time. So each can, do they kind of have a similar dry time between them?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, spray paint dries relatively quickly. You would still, just like anything else, to get the best result, you're gonna want to allow it the proper amount of time it needs to completely dry. So if you were maybe painting like something outside, or if you're doing a mural, like a lot of times you could work simultaneously. You know, I can spray some of this, spray some of that. But like to touch, I would wait, you know, at least, you know, 15 minutes or so, because if it's not completely dry, then you run the risk of getting like fingerprints on your project. Yeah. And nobody really wants that, unless that's the style you're going for. But I would really recommend it. So yeah, and then with each paint, it is recommended to give it about a 24-hour drying time to completely cure all the way. So even if I touch it and it seems dry, it's not completely cured. Okay. So you're gonna want to be mindful of that as well when it comes to varnishing or doing other coats of paint as well. Yeah. So I mean, as far as the different brands that we carry, that's gonna be all of them. From each line, there might be different sizes that are offered between them. Some we have like 600 milliliter cans. Some we have 100 milliliter cans. So if you don't need too much paint, or if you need an excessive amount of paint, then we have all of it really.
We have all of them.
Yeah. So that's that for like the different brands. The next thing I wanted to get into was not only do they offer, you know, a bunch of different colors. Some of them offer like for example, the Belton offers 260 different colors. That includes like transparents, which would be like things like this, which was the next thing I kind of wanted to get into.
Yeah.
Transparent paint is super, super cool. It's pretty versatile. The cool thing about it is when you apply it, it's going to come out a lot lighter. And the more passes you do, the more intensified the transparency will become. So, for example, if you were to paint, say, an image in grayscale, and then you went back with the transparent and you just hit it over it, it's just going to change the color. It's not going to alter anything on the painting.
You still see like the value underneath popping through.
Exactly. So it's kind of like the way that I usually, yeah, I'll explain it to customers kind of like 3D glasses, how they have those little films in them. So that's essentially how it would work.
Okay.
So if like I have like a green and I layer it with the pink, it's gonna come out like an odd color.
Yeah.
So it's something to be mindful of when you're using the transparent ones. But a lot of people do like them for like shadow effects or stuff, where it's nice and soft and they don't have to use the full opacity of the regular spray paint.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool there. And then along with some of the brands offering transparents, several of the lines also do have fluorescent colors as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's really cool. The fluorescent ones from some of the brands are actually like activated by black light.
Okay.
Which is pretty rad also.
Yeah.
But one thing I will mention about the fluorescent colors, it's really, I guess you could get the best result if you were to layer it over like a white background.
Okay. You don't want to do it on something dark.
Well, you could, but it's not gonna, since it is a fluorescent and fluorescents already tend to be more transparent, it's not gonna pop as much.
Got it.
So if I was getting this can and I wanted it to be this value of fluorescent, then it's highly recommended to put down like a white base first.
Okay.
So that will help make it pop a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so there's that. And then aside from the transparent and the fluorescent, they also do offer some chrome ones as well. From, as I mentioned, like each line has their own kind of like value to the different colors they offer. But there are chrome available in the Belton, in the 94, the hardcore, and the black, as well as the gold. So it's pretty cool. There's a couple different shades that you could choose from as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another thing that you can choose from.
Nice.
And I guess the next thing I kind of wanted to get into, if there wasn't like really any questions or anything, was the tech sprays.
Okay.
So there's like technical sprays that, again, offered by a couple different brands. The main ones being Montana. They offer a full range of like primers, so it could be anything from like aluminum primer. We also carry plastic primers, metal primers, styrofoam primer, universal primers as well.
Okay. Do you recommend those for if you're like gonna spray paint on metal or plastic or?
So yeah, so what is always recommended is to prepare your surface prior to painting on it. For each surface, there's like different preparation that is recommended. But so for example, one thing I have customers coming for all the time is like they want to repaint their bike.
Yeah.
So for that, of course, it's highly recommended to strip the old paint, sand it down, and then prepare it with like a metal primer. You could even use a universal primer if you like. But then from there, then you could choose pretty much any paint as long as you varnish it at the end as well. It's just recommended so that way once you complete the job from beginning to finish, you have it layered properly. So that way it will help with like the longevity of the paint job.
Yeah.
So that way, you know, it's gonna help with like the scratch resistance. It's gonna help with it being prolonged, like in prolonged light, things like that. It's highly recommended, but of course, like due to the bases of these paints, if you completely did not want to prepare your bike and you just wanted to paint it again, you could do that. But again, you run the risk of it. Yeah, it might chip faster. the color might not be as vibrant for as long. So just little things like that.
Got it. Somebody asking, would you say that they're all easy to work with, or are there certain ones that are easy to work with than others?
They are all gonna pretty much function the same. Spray paint is spray paint. The pressure may affect how easily you can control the can per se.
Yeah.
But as far as the functionality of it, it's all gonna pretty much be even. I usually like to recommend to customers to at least try a couple different ones so they could see for themselves. And again, how I said, like, I can't stress it enough. It really does go back to the application that you're using it for, which is really gonna make the difference.
Yeah.
But if you're just trying to experiment and do some fun, like mixed media stuff, or even, you know, hey, I've never painted a wall before, my friend's gonna let me paint in their backyard, then it's all about having fun, really, because there's a lot of options, but like it's important not to let that overwhelm you and interfere with like the main goal, which is to be creative and do some fun stuff. So I guess to answer the question, the pressure would really be the only thing that could kind of like alter the experience that you would be having between the different brands and the different cans. But as far as the quality of the paint, everything that we carry out our store is going to be really good stuff.
Good quality.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. So so like basically how I was mentioning, like just the different types of primers and stuff. This is just an example of one. This one's a universal primer that we carry.
So the universal one, you can use that on like metal, plastic, wood.
Yes.
Yeah, all those.
Yeah. So say for example, I wanted to paint my bike, but also later I was gonna paint my mom's coffee table for her. I could just invest in this because it would do both. If I was like predominantly painting only on like metal, then a metal primer would be more appropriate for that job.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So there is that. And then like I guess just getting a little bit more into like the different tech sprays that we offer. There's like some pretty cool effects that they have. The first one I wanted to show you is just an example. This right here is the marble effect spray.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so as you can see, it has this pretty cool effect.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like spider webs almost.
Yeah.
But this one, they offer a range of colors. They actually just came out with a couple new ones. They have like gold that just came out. They have like red, blue, white, black, and silver. So that one's pretty fun, right? You can do some pretty cool projects with that one.
Yeah.
The next one I wanted to show you is the granite. So this one here is pretty unique.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it pretty much mimics like a granite effect.
Yeah.
There are a variety of colors of this one as well. The main thing that's going to change on these is just the base color, but the specs are going to come out the same. So like, so this one is a gray one, but we also carry like brown, white, black. So there's a couple options for that one as well.
With that one, you want to like spray paint like a layer first of just like.
Yeah, it's highly recommended just so that way that base color can show through a lot more. For a majority of these tech sprays, you're gonna want to layer it with whatever color you want for that base first. So like for a perfect example would be this one here. This one is the crackle effect.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the crackle itself is actually just the blue part.
Okay.
It was sprayed with a base of pink first.
Okay.
Yeah, and when working with any paint, as I mentioned, it's really important to get the best result to allow your paint the proper amount of time that it needs to completely cure, especially with like these ones here.
Okay, so you want to spray paint a layer and let it sit for like 24 hours and then use the technical spray on it?
Yes. So like, although it is time consuming, again, as I mentioned, it's just to get the best result. So of course, if you don't want to wait, you don't have to, but it probably won't
may not act how you want it
to. Exactly. So it's a bummer too, because I've had sometimes customers coming in, they're just buying tons and tons and tons of cans, and they're running into like, hey, it's not doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
It just comes down to if you're using the product the way that it's been meant to be used.
Got it.
So the cool thing with this one specifically, I just want to like kind of touch base on. If you look, there's some parts that kind of have like a smaller crackles.
Yeah.
And then up here you have like wider spread.
Yeah.
So the way that this one works, the more passes that you do and the more coats that you do, it's
Okay.
gonna basically just pull the paint together. So
Okay.
if you want like bigger cracks that are fatter like this, then you just do less layers. But if you
Okay.
wait about, I believe it's 15 minutes between each coat, then you could just spray it, and then it's gonna naturally, whatever compounds they have inside the paint causes it to pull together tighter.
Interesting.
So it's pretty cool because you can do a lot of stuff with that one too. If you think about it the right way and you lay it out right,
Yeah.
you're pretty safe. And then we also have the glitter effect. Yeah, so this one's pretty cool. It's something that this one is actually made to just be like a top coat
Yeah.
for the paint. So it's really important to put a base color down first.
Yeah.
They did just recently release 4 new colors for the glitter. So aside from it just being like a silver glitter, they also have like hologram, which is a couple different colored specks.
Yeah.
They have some that are red, orange, purple, and I want to say the last one was blue. So they're like widening the variety of options that are available. So that one's pretty sweet. This one right here, this one's pretty unique. I feel like it's pretty underrated, to be honest. This one right here it's a texture spray.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess the way that I could best describe it is very similar to like a molding paste.
Okay.
Or even kind of like spackle, I guess.
Yeah.
So this is pretty cool because it gives it like 3 dimension to your art.
Yeah.
So like if, for example, if you were doing like planets, like you know how people will do like spray paint and they'll do like crazy planet designs.
Yeah.
So you wanted to do like a little bit more with your moon and give it some texture. Then this would be a pretty good option. But I've also seen it be used for like if there's like a big hole in the wall and you just needed to kind of like fill it in, you can also use that too. Yeah, because when it's wet, you can work with it and manipulate it to get the type of texture that you prefer.
Okay, there's kind of working time to it.
For that one, I'm not too sure. I don't think it dries as quick as a typical spray paint.
Yeah.
So it would give you a little bit more time to work with it. And then it's also going to vary depending on the amount that you're applying to. So if you do like a heavy amount, then you're going to have a lot more working time. But if it's only a little bit here and there, it's more likely to dry quicker. Yeah, so there's that one. And then we also do have this here is a metallic effect. This one is acrylic based as well. So something to keep in mind when you do use this product, it would need to be the same way as a paint would. So the thing with the lacquer base is like, just to kind of go back for a second, like the ones that are similar to like a lacquer base, those ones are like kind of more heavy duty. So I guess you could just like apply them without as much care in a sense. Okay. But when it comes to like the acrylic ones, it's really important that you're preparing your surface. Because acrylic is versatile, but not quite as versatile as these other brands would be. So it's really important that you prime your surfaces, especially if you're going to be painting on metal with acrylic, because it doesn't always stick the best to non-porous surfaces.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you really want to make sure that you're varnishing it as well. So like for example, with the metallic one, since it is acrylic, you're going to want to treat it the same way. You're going to want to make sure that you prime it, you know, maybe sand it down so it has some tooth to stick onto, and then you want to seal it up at the end. But it's been actually pretty cool. Like some of the things I've seen some customers paint, they'll paint like guitar bodies, or they'll do or they'll do stuff on like their motorcycle tank.
Yeah.
It's endless, honestly. There's so much stuff you could do with it. But they have a pretty good like variety of colors available in the metallic line as well.
Nice.
Yeah, another one. This one might be one of my favorites, but it's a luminous paint. This is a glow in the dark spray paint that we carry. We offer it from 2 different brands, from Montana and MTN again, as I mentioned. But this one's super sick. You could pretty much spray it on like kind of anything. And but similar to the fluorescent, to get the best result, it pops more on lighter colors. So just something to kind of be mindful of when working with that one.
And that's like a paint basically like if you put it in the sun and it's in the sun for a while and then if you bring it into like the dark, it'll like glow. Yeah. That's how it works. Okay.
Yeah, you can. It will also react to black light,
Okay.
as well as like just pretty much any LED light or anything that it can hold a charge from, even just like a desk light,
Okay.
anything like that. So it's honestly, it's really cool. Like you're really not limited, and although it comes in a spray paint, people like to think like, oh, it has to be like, like graffiti or street art or this or that. Like it's really cool because it's not only limited to that, as I mentioned. Like you could like paint your desk in completely glow in the dark. Like it's not limited. So, or even your bike or your rims on your car.
That's cool.
You could do a lot with it. Yeah. So this one's pretty special. It's pretty fun. So another thing I wanted to get into, real quick, almost forgot. We also do carry a chalk spray. This is not permanent. So with this, like say you're gonna be making marks on the floor that you wanted to wash away for later, or if you're gonna have your kids doing some like sidewalk art, or if you wanted to do sidewalk art, this would probably be a really good option to kind of do like the main base for an area where you're gonna kind of do details on. Or like I've also seen when people do those like crazy like 3D looking arts with all chalk and like you could like fall into the floor and stuff like that. So we do offer like I believe like 10 different colors of this as well.
Okay.
So then transitioning real quick, how I was mentioning about the protecting your project once you're done. We do also sell varnishes. I brought one from each brand that we carry. We also carry Krylon varnishes in the store, but as far as in our spray paint department, these are the two that we do have. Okay. Belton also carries some varnishes, but the main thing I wanted to talk about for choosing the appropriate varnish, there's two different kinds. So there's the acrylic varnish, and then there's synthetic varnish.
Okay.
So what's really, 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 really important, because say you prepared your surface properly, painted it, but then you get the wrong varnish, then that can completely mess up the whole project. So depending on the type of paint that you chose in the very beginning for your application, you're gonna want to make sure you get the appropriate varnish for that. So if you're using a lacquer-based paint or like something similar, you're gonna want to make sure you go with the synthetic varnish for that.
Got it.
Synthetic covers like things that have like more like oil-based properties or synthetic alkyd type bases. But it's not limited to that. It also will work on acrylic.
Okay.
So that's the cool thing about that one.
Yeah.
But with the other ones that are acrylic based, they're only gonna work on acrylic products.
Got it.
The acrylic one would also work on the water-based one as well. They do carry a water-based varnish, which can also work on acrylic. So it sounds a little complex, but the main thing to remember basically is acrylic with acrylic.
Yeah.
And everything else, pretty much with everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I do have one person who had a question about the chalk paint. They were asking, does the chalk paint work with other types of paint, or does it have to be used specifically only with chalk spray paint?
I wouldn't really recommend using it for anything other than keeping it chalk related.
Yeah.
Just due to the fact that, as I mentioned, it's not permanent. Yeah. So say I'm doing a piece and I do half of the background with the blue chalk, and then I go over it with the hardcore lacquer base.
Yeah.
And then I start doing like some illustration on top of the chalk part. It's not really adhering to anything. It's just going onto the chalk. So I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah.
You want to keep them kind of separate.
Yeah, well, I mean, just for that one, more so like, just because, as I mentioned, it's not permanent. So it's going to respond a little differently than the other spray paint would. It's essentially just like literally chalk, but in a spray paint form. So it's not that it has like a chalk effect or like a chalky look. Like it's literally chalk. in a spray paint.
Chalk.
Yeah, literally chalk. So yeah. So I guess to kind of go back on the varnishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, it's pretty important to be mindful of that. Any varnish you pick up in our store, regardless of the brand, it will be labeled on what type of base that it is. So yeah, between the two, I would highly recommend the synthetic just because you can go between different types of paint and you're not limited to only acrylic. Because if I have this acrylic paint and then I get this 94 and I want to varnish over it, it's not going to respond the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's those.
May not be as permanent.
Yeah, it will just, it's more so just the adhesion of the bases conflicting. So yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to.
Can you use the spray varnishes, say like on like a acrylic painting?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even sometimes what I do, because like I don't always paint like on canvas. I actually don't ever paint on canvas. I'll usually paint on like wood, walls, different stuff like that. Sometimes vinyl records even, glass, so stuff that's non-porous. If I'm using like the acrylic paint markers with it, for vinyl records, sometimes I'll actually just spray it down, like in a sense, kind of prime it, if you would, with the varnish. Because essentially all it is, it's like an invisible layer of acrylic that you're kind of putting down to promote adhesion.
Yeah.
Since naturally acrylic wouldn't really work on vinyl or metal or things like that. So it's kind of like a little cheat thing that I do. It's not really recommended, but it's always worked for me. So that kind of just goes back to how I was saying, like there's a lot of stuff that like the manufacturers will recommend, and just due to the properties of the paint, it's like what you should follow. But that doesn't mean that you can't do different things with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so at the end, pretty much this is gonna keep all the color nice and vibrant. It's gonna help prevent like any scratching. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty cool too, because I seriously didn't even know what varnishing was until I started working here at the store. And I've been doing art for my whole life. So when I realized like, oh, you're supposed to put a coat on your piece once you're done. Wow, right? So it's pretty cool.
I didn't really varnish my stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it was, to be completely honest. So like from going from there to actually like, oh wow, so there's a varnish and there's different types of varnish.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just one thing I always like to let customers to be mindful of, is to make sure that the base of your varnish is appropriate for the type of paint that you initially use.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's those. And then another thing I wanted to kind of get into real quick was caps.
Okay.
So before I start there, they do have this here. It's a cap cleaner.
Okay.
We do offer it again from both brands.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool because like if you wanted to use the same cap multiple times, and you could just pop it on the top and spray it through, and it will clean the cap for you. I wouldn't recommend it like having only one cap for like the whole can and continually reusing it, because these caps are plastic.
Yeah.
So over time, running solvent through it, it's gonna end up
break it down.
Yeah, but it is pretty cool if you have a project and you have another project that you want to work on after, and you don't want to keep buying a bunch of new caps, then it does come in handy. So yeah, having that said, there's tons of different caps, like even just from the ones that come on the cans. They're pretty much paired with an appropriate cap depending on the type of base it is and what the paint is doing.
Yeah.
Some are going to be giving you a more condensed lines. Some of them are going to be skinnier lines. Some of them are fatter lines.
Yeah.
We do have a couple that are like a fan spray. So like this one, for example, it has a little thing on the top right there where you can actually turn it. And depending on like where you have it set, if I have it here and I move my can downward, it's just gonna be a skinny line. But at the same setting, if I push my can this way, I'm gonna get like a fat squared line.
Yeah.
So like if you're painting like furniture or something and you want a nice even coverage, then I would highly recommend something like that.
Okay.
Or like a spray that's going to be a fatter size spray so it lays down. One thing I always kind of compare it to when it comes to caps is kind of like, you know, I know we've all seen those cars drive by on the street and you can totally tell that someone just got a spray paint can and just kind of fixed up the hood of it or whatever, or the door. So to prevent like any type of
Like the
spray like
streakiness?
that, yeah, you would want to choose a cap that's more appropriate for your project, for your end result. So yeah, we have like over 50 different caps to choose from, all of them. Yeah, so like I said, there's some pretty fat ones that could do like sizes from here. We have some like the skinniest, probably gonna be like this big. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Montana actually offers this little pack right here. It's a little levels cap pack.
Yeah.
This one's pretty cool because it could be a little bit intimidating when you see a list of like 60 to 50 caps and you just want a skinny one and you don't know what any of them are. This one is pretty cool. I like to recommend it to people who are just starting off because it actually has a little picture guide and it will tell you what each size is.
Yeah.
So if you were to try it out and you were like, oh, I like the level 3 cap, that's a perfect size, you could come back to the store and get those ones specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do sell the caps as individuals. There are a couple sets, like this one, for example, that we offer. The caps, the individual ones are like about 44 cents each. And then we have like other specialty caps. Another one I kind of wanted to mention, this one in particular, is called the Uprock adapter.
Okay.
So this one here, it's good for male cans.
Okay.
So for the cans that we offer at our store, they're predominantly female cans, which means they do not have a valve sticking up at the top. We did just, as I mentioned, the Krylons that we just started carrying.
Yeah.
These ones are going to be male caps, so they have a little stem sticking up. So what this adapter will do, it will allow the caps that we offer here, which are male caps. So it's kind of hard to see, but it has a little stem in there.
Yeah.
Similar to like this one here with the stem.
Yeah.
If I try putting this one onto this guy,
Yeah, you can't do that.
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's when this adapter would become necessary.
Got it.
So it's basically if you have different types of cans and you want to get maybe the effect that you could get from the Montana Black cap, then you would just put your adapter. Well, first it's recommended to put the cap first.
On first.
And then onto your adapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it will make a mess. So that just allows you to use the male caps on male cans.
Got it.
But it's not required for all the caps. It would just be for ones that you need with this type of stem on it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but a majority of the caps that we carry, they're all going to be male caps, so they'll fit on a majority of the cans just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of all I got.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us. It was informative, and I hope everyone enjoyed it and got something out of it. Next week, we're going to do, we're doing one with Pentel. They're going to be demoing their fine line brush pen. It's like their finest brush tip. And that'll be with Chris Kohler. So that should be a good one as well. Thanks, Miranda.
No problem. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.